This is part 3 of the series showing that planes, trains, and automobiles and Jacob's Ladder are the same movie. If you haven't yet seen the first 2 parts, I recommend watching those first, as you might not understand what I'm talking about in subsequent videos. In this video, I will lay out the 3 parallel universes in each film and explain their significance because these universes are intentional and identical. As I showed in part 1, the 3 universes are war and work, the in-between with Del and Louie, or the journey, and family. From a plot perspective, these are standard in every story. Of course, the middle part of a story represents the journey and home as the destination. But in these 2 films, it is also rather on the nose. And these are not just part of a story arc, they are actual universes these characters inhabit. Not just in the linear storyline, but non-linearly as well. I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. In the first part, I will explore the linear parallel universes across both films. In the second part, I will show you the non-linear structure of the parallel universes and how the filmmaker uses particular devices to demonstrate this. Universe 1. In the opening of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Neil is at work in his office in New York. He's impatient, waiting to be released so he can catch his flight home. He runs through pedestrian traffic as rush hour clogs the arteries of Manhattan, hoping to catch a taxi. He encounters enemies who fight him for the cab and is ultimately thrown into traffic when he trips on a trunk left in his path. This is where Neil died. This moment is the transition point, and his journey home begins. In Jacob's Ladder, the opening shows Jacob in Vietnam engaged in battle, and the enemy turns out to be his own military, which ultimately killed him. So how is that any different from what I just explained in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Neil was battling people in his own company, his boss, strangers in the street in his own neighborhood, obstacles in his own way, the trunk and the car that hit him. All of these things are within his own circle. The real enemy was time, but the only one who made it an enemy was Neil. Just like Jacob, his enemy is himself. This first universe represents duality, the belief that the physical world is real and separate from us. Believing in separation creates antagonism because if the external appears separate, we believe it's acting against us. This is why we think we must defend ourselves. But everything outside of us is us. We are shadowboxing with ourselves. The war is internal, not external. Universe 2. The main arc in both films is the journey home. Neil embarks on a chaotic adventure with Del, who appears to be making things worse. But it's not about how quickly Neil gets home. Del is teaching him to enjoy the journey even through the chaos. He's also teaching Neil to leave behind the trappings of the physical world: time, identity, money, status, comforts, and ultimately his sense of self. Del strips Neil bare because Neil was so fixated on the 3D that he forgot who he is. That's why he was shown to be dead at the start of the film. In Jacob's Ladder, Jacob finds himself with Jessie, the woman he knew from the post office in his other life. After waking up on the subway the moment he was stabbed in the war, he becomes obsessed with demons suddenly appearing in his reality. Only when a former military buddy tells him that he sees them too, does Jacob connect it to the war. He becomes convinced that someone did something to them in Vietnam, and that's now affecting his mind, just like Neil is convinced Del is the cause of his problems on his way home. Not long after Jacob appears in the underworld, he says to Jessie, "I want to go home." And on the surface, it sounds like it means their home, but the subtext is that he's referring to his true home. And this is why he follows it up with wanting to meet his chiropractor, Louie. Louie is helping him get to his true home. His first visit with Louie includes mention of Sarah, his true home, his true love. Sarah appears to be part of the war world, and we didn't see this in the opening, we only saw the war. She's also a memory of his true home, which seems to exist in Jacob's future. I know this is starting to get a little confusing because to fully grasp this film, you have to let go of the linear timeline and see everything is happening now, because it is. Sarah is both a memory and a vision of the future. The same can be said for Neil and his wife. Neil reaches out to his wife, and she also appears to be part of his original timeline in the Office universe. But she is also a memory of his true home that hasn't happened yet. His family, wife, is what calls him home. Jacob, like Neil, is taken on a chaotic journey through the underworld where he's stripped of identity, time, money, status, comforts, and ultimately even his body and sense of self. Unlike planes, trains, and automobiles, we know Jacob is dead, or dying in linear terms, though Jacob himself does not yet realize it, just like Neil didn't realize it. Universe 3, family. Neil's third universe in the linear time frame begins on the Chicago train platform. He says goodbye to Dell and immediately has visions, just like Jacob, of his family preparing Thanksgiving dinner. He also has flashbacks of his time with Dell, but now he looks at it fondly. This triggers a memory of something that Dell said, and Neil returns to the train station where he receives the truth. Jacob's third universe is also family. He has memories of his marriage and life with his boys before his son died. But there's a difference between memory, vision, and his consciousness returning. Jacob's third universe begins in the tunnel when he's speaking with Michael Newman, the chemist who created Jacob's ladder, and he receives the truth. For both films, the truth sets them on the final leg of the journey home. Neil on the elevated train with Dell, and Jacob in a taxi. Both are leaving the underworld. Neil arrives home as if no time has passed. His whole family meets him in the foyer. His wife comes downstairs, and they embrace, the masculine and feminine reuniting. Jacob arrives at his old home as if the family had just stepped out. Food and homework are out, and the TV is on. And he stays up all night reflecting on what Louis told him about demons and angels freeing him from the earth. The earth is what he clung to, the physical world. And once he lets that go, he's ready, and he hears his son. He finds Gabe on the stairs, who tells him it's okay, and leads him upstairs to heaven. Both Neil and Jacob return home because home is where the heart is, the feminine. Before we go deeper, there's something important to clarify about the structures of these films. There are two ways to watch what's happening with these universes. The linear 3D perspective shows that the character appears to move through three universes in order. Universe 1 to Universe 2 to Universe 3, which is described earlier by Dell saying,
"You know, the finest line a man will walk is between success at work and success at home. I got a motto. Like your work, love your wife." Well, I'll remember that.
This is how most viewers interpret the plot because the physical world teaches us that time moves forward in a linear fashion. But the nonlinear perspective is also present. Here, all three universes exist at once. They overlap, they bleed into each other, and they merge. Flashbacks, visions, dreams, memories, deja vu, and sudden temporal shifts are how the filmmakers show that these realities are simultaneous, not sequential. Both Jacob's Ladder and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles speak from the nonlinear perspective. What looks like a sequence is actually consciousness shifting between coexisting states. Now let's look at how these films show this structurally, starting with Jacob's Ladder because the transitions between universes are more explicit. The first clear transition happens when Jacob is stabbed in Vietnam and instantly wakes up in the subway. The movie presents this as if the war was a dream and Jacob's true life begins on the subway. But what is actually happening is this consciousness is shifting from Universe 1 to Universe 2. This shift tells us that Jacob is dead in Universe 1, and because all universes are projections of consciousness, he's technically dead in all of them. Notice he wakes up in hell as suggested by the subway posters around him, but he wakes up with full memory of a life he hasn't actually lived in this universe until that moment. He has a girlfriend, a job, a home, and they all appear because he appears. His consciousness places him mid-story. That alone tells us we're not dealing with linear time. Jacob returns home to Jesse. Things seem normal, and suddenly the film cuts to him in the war with water dripping on his face, which is actually him in the shower in the Jesse reality. This is how consciousness stitches together two universes. The sensory experience of one becomes the symbolism of another. He cries out, "Help me," on the battlefield and wakes up in Universe 2 yelling the same thing. The two universes are occurring simultaneously. I want to slow down on this moment because the photographs and the Super 8 film used by the filmmaker are deliberate devices to show the difference between two kinds of remembering. The photographs represent a dead memory. It's fixed, static, frozen in time. The use of Super 8 film represents a living vision. This is Jacob's own idealized memory of his true home. It's still a memory, but it's something that hasn't happened yet. To show how the visual texturing reveals these parallel realities moving through Jacob's consciousness, I'll break down the scene from that perspective. Jesse drops a package of photographs onto the bed. She says the kid dropped it off. Jacob asks which one, and she says the little one. She never remembers their names, so Jacob assumes she means Eli. But the moment Jacob sees Gabe's photo, he cries. In this universe, Gabe is dead. In the linear timeline, Gabe also died before the war. But if Jacob went to war after Gabe died, when exactly did he meet Jesse? When did he build this whole life? He didn't. The universe is a construction, a dream reality. And because it's dream logic, the little one showing up with the package is not a literal child. It's Gabe, his subconscious Gabe, delivering the catalyst that cracks open his memory. This is why Jesse burns the photos. She isn't being malicious, she's functioning as part of his universe. Her role is to keep him there, and the photographs are a threat because they connect him to the family universe. The photographs are the dead memory he's trying to hold on to, but the Super 8 film, the moving, idealized vision of his life with Sarah and the boys, is the truth calling him home. This scene is very pivotal. At the party, Jacob sees demons, and then cut to Jacob's guts are hanging out in Vietnam. Cut again, he's freezing with a fever in the Jesse universe. Cut again, he's home with Sarah, needing to close the window because he's freezing. These aren't memories of being home. He is home in that universe. He tells his wife Sarah he had a dream of being with Jesse from the post office. Then he wakes up in the Jesse reality and she tells him that he was dreaming of his wife and kids. How could he know about Jesse in his home reality with his wife and kids if Jesse happened after the war and his family with Gabe happened before the war? It's not possible. His consciousness inhabits both realities simultaneously. There's even a moment after Jacob tucks Gabe in where he remembers something, even though all three timelines contradict each other. He tells Sarah he loves her, which is a moment that these timelines merge. And then he has a vision of trees, a helicopter sound, voices from the battlefield. Watch the head. I don't think we stand an effing chance down here. Declare an emergency. Over. And then straight back into the ice bath with the doctor. The doctor says, "You must have friends in high places." Cut to Jacob being airlifted by literal friends in high places. It's a perfect cross-universe echo. When Jacob's fever breaks, he asks Jesse, "Am I home?" And she responds, "Yes." But that's not the home he means. He wants his true home. She says he talked in his sleep saying Sarah closed the window, and she assumes it was a dream. But his dream worlds are his lives. All three are real within his consciousness. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Similar structure, more subtle execution. The first universe is the New York office. He's aware of his family and trying to get home. But there is no crossover yet. He's locked in his physical perspective. The moment he dies, he shifts to Universe 2. The cut showing Neil suddenly outside the path of the car is the exact moment the new universe begins. And yet he continues on as if he never died, remembering the world he left because his consciousness is still looping there, as if he's still there. This edit is effective because it shows the looping reality, the reality in which he died, and the reality in which he didn't. This technique appears again at the end of the film. Did you catch it? I'll show you in another video. The office is part of that loop. This is why the movie starts Neil's story inside the boardroom, waiting to be set free by his boss, who holds him hostage to time. Neil can't yet move on. This mirrors Jacob's transition from the war to the subway. Neil is now in a nightmare loop trying to get home. Just like Jacob, he's stuck trying to resolve the moment of his death. In Jacob's Ladder, Jacob kept saying he wanted to go home or asking, "Am I home?" and his memories kept bleeding through his current consciousness. This is exactly what we see with Neil Page. His linear memories, wife, kids, Thanksgiving, bleed into Universe 2 through visions and imagination and memories, because those belong to Universe 3, the family universe. He's reaching out for home, but home is out of reach. This is why he uses the phone to contact his family. He can reach them early on through the phone because they're still connected to his 3D memory. But as he shifts towards his true home, the calls stop connecting. He's no longer aligned with that physical universe. Neil surrenders his watch for a hotel room, which represents his attachment to time and his previous timeline. This is emphasized when he tries to call home but can't reach his wife for the first time. His previous 3D life is out of reach, but so is his true home. He can't reach either one. Dell sits in the burnt-out car criticizing himself while talking to his dead wife. His wife, too, is not reachable. Then Dell says, "When are you going to wake up?" And it cuts to Neil waking up in the hotel room.
When am I ever gonna wake up?
The use of this match cut is to show the crossover point between the two universes of the men. A moment before this, Neil used Dell's tricks to get a hotel room, but Dell wasn't able to use his old tricks. So this moment shows them effectively swapping roles. This is identical to how Jacob's family universe drifts away until he finally integrates and returns home. The final subway ride is key. Neil remembers his family preparing Thanksgiving dinner, but the scene includes shots he couldn't possibly know because he himself appears inside the vision. This isn't a memory, it's imagination. It's the reality he's aligning with, Universe 3. When he arrives home, he's welcomed as if nothing unusual has happened because this is the universe where he never died. This is the future pure consciousness timeline. It's his true home. This is exactly like Jacob leaving the chemist and going straight home without saying goodbye to Jesse, the military, or Louis. There's no one for him to say goodbye to because they are dream characters in the intermediary universe. Once home, Jacob is greeted by Sam, the doorman, and he calls for Sarah, Samsara. The cycle he is now leaving once he reunites with Gabe. Both films end by exposing yet a fourth layer, which I will discuss in the next video.